Roll.
Oh, we don't go through the rest of it? Wait. Okay.
Almost over.
Alderman Patricia Clee,
I'm here. I'm alone at the moment. I can hear everybody, and I'm practicing social distancing.
Alderwoman Elizabeth Lou. I don't see her. Okay. Clerk, I'm here. I'm alone in this room. I'm practicing social distancing, and I can hear you. Alderwoman Shoshana Kelly.
I'm here. I'm alone. I can hear everyone, and I am practicing social distancing.
Alderman Brandon Luss.
I'm here. I'm alone. I can hear you. I'm protecting all of you from being around me.
Alderman Michael Brain, Sr.
I am here. I can hear the proceedings, and I am alone.
And Mayor Johnson. And Mayor Darches.
Here, I can hear the proceedings and I'm alone.
So we do have a quorum.
All right, well, we've called the meeting to order. As chairman of the Finance Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and subsequent extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are first providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-205-6099, meeting ID 826-2482-4519. The password is 840480. The public may also view the meeting via channel 16. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and the Public Health Department. Third, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. Fourth, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. And we've already taken the roll call. So thank you. And we will now go to the agenda. Public, is there any member of the public who wishes to address the meeting?
Before we move there, Alderwoman Lou has joined us. She was not able to roll call.
Alderwoman Lou, could you state whether you, why you're not present and if you can hear and if you're alone?
Thank you. I can hear you. I'm here alone and I'm practicing social distancing.
Okay. And I also like to make a notation that Alderman Tom Lopez is doing this as well. Thank you.
All right, so is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the committee? All right, nobody. Let's go to communications. Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Yes. Communications from Tim Cummings, Economic Development Director. I motion to accept, placed on file, and award the professional services contract for various commercial real estate needs to NAI Norwood by roll call.
Now, Mr. Cummings, could you please address this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the committee. For the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. What is before you this evening is a contract to retain brokerage and marketing services from a commercial real estate firm. This has been something that I've been looking to do for a while now. We put an RFP out back in 2019. We had 3 groups respond. A small internal group of City Hall officials, the Corporation Counsel, the Administrative Services Director, and myself met with 2 of the 3 groups. Ultimately, we settled on NAI Norwood to represent us in this multi-year contract for also some ad hoc advisory services as needed as well. So they were the lowest proponents as well when they submitted with relative to their commissions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cummings? Alderwoman Lou.
Hey, John, could you clarify, did you say that they will be doing, what is the agreement? Sorry, why is it that they're not working as an ordinary real estate broker with, commission if sold?
They are. It's exactly what the contract says.
Oh, okay.
Now, one thing that needs to be clarified from last time, because this question came up and the tentative answer I gave you was correct. The proceeds of this sale are from the remainder of a parcel that was partially used for the Broad Street Park. And we're talking now about the main parcel here, 44 Broad Street. The proceeds of that sale will go not to the city of Nashua, but back to the federal government, because they advance the funds to make these acquisitions.
Thank you for clarifying that. I thought that we were retaining them for general use. At the Board of Aldermen meeting, I thought the discussion, or when it was presented, that they were for general consulting going forward. Is it specifically for this parcel?
Well, there are other Broad Street parcels that are also in a similar situation. But 44 Broad is the most significant of them.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, please.
I just want to clarify because I didn't hear the motion clearly, but I just want to make sure it's we're all clear on the process. The motion, I don't know if it's a recommendation to the full Board of Aldermen, but the intention of this contract is to be multi-year, and per our code, we need to make sure that it's approved by the Board of Aldermen. So if the motion is for approval by this Finance Committee, I'm going to ask that the motion read for recommendation for full approval with the Board of Aldermen, so this can be a multi-year contract. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward. The contract looks thorough. My question is just more general. Is it normal practice for cities to have this kind of relationship? And if so, why haven't we had one until now?
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I can't speak to past practice, but I can say that it's not uncommon for municipalities to retain brokerage firms to dispose of properties, especially if it's a unique or challenging site. It really depends on the specifics of what the municipality's end goals may be. Sometimes going the route of an auction may make the most sense, and sometimes going direct to RFP for the subject property may make the most sense, and sometimes, using a brokerage firm. So I've, in my previous communities, have always retained and had relationships with professional brokers to use, as necessary. And I just think it's a best practice that the city have one retained with the agreed upon commission that we can call upon as necessary moving forward as a best practice.
Can I speak to something here?
Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Yes. The motion reads a little bit differently, but as part of remarks, Tim, it does say that a contract for NAI Norwood to assist is necessary on a case-by-case basis with the advisory and procurement disposition of commercial real estate. So that is there, but that's not quite the motion, but it is part of, I guess, it's part of this communications. For
Excellent.
us.
Excellent. Thank you, Alderman. But I just, again, want to clarify, and if you could further read the motion, does the motion say approval by the Finance Committee or approval by the full Board of Aldermen?
No, this is for Finance Committee. Then it moves to the Board of Aldermen, but it doesn't say that. But
Right.
let me read it to you again, and just to be clear. It says to accept, place on file, and award the professional services contract for various commercial real estate needs to NAI Norwood by roll call. And that's typically the way it reads to get through us onto the
Perfect.
board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In keeping with the conversation that just happened, and perhaps Alderwoman Harriet Gathright can ask this, would it be called for to add those words for recommendation to the full board, or is it not necessary?
Okay. In the time that I've been here, it hasn't been necessary because every last one of these go to the full board. So that's why I'm saying it's going to the board anyway.
Yes, it is going to go to the board
Yes.
anyway, because it needs a multi-year contract. It needs approval by the entire board because it's a multi-year contract. So
Right. And I appreciate that. So I just wanted to clarify it. Thank you so much.
Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. Just a thought. Was it possible that we could have used this contract to provide us access to CoStar? I noticed that in the record of expenditures this period, we spent quite a bit on subscriptions to CoStar. Was that considered? Because my understanding is NAI Norwood is a commercial realtor, correct? With that, probably with access to CoStar.
Mr. Cummings.
I don't understand the question.
Okay. Why do we need the CoStar service if we're using a commercial realtor to provide brokerage services with our commercial realty. Is it for, yeah, that's the question. Perhaps it's for assessment.
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, it is, I know, valued with assessing, but equally so, it's valued in economic development. I can say that any economic development office I've worked in, we've had access to the proprietary database, CoStar. It's a standard. You know, it would be like operating without an office without having access to Microsoft Word. I can't tell you how often I field phone calls from residents or various stakeholders who want to talk about various pieces of real estate, and I need immediate access to that type of data. I would suggest it would be a disservice to the community to, not have access to that data and wait for a broker to provide it and then pay a markup charge that we would probably have to pay because we didn't have that direct access, which, at the end of the day is, I want to say somewhere in the order of $6,000 for 3 or 4 licenses. So in the grand scheme of things, I think it is well worth the money, especially the amount of time that I'm on the database.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws.
Yes.
Did you say yes, Brian?
Yes.
Thank you. Alderman O'Brien
Yes.
and Mayor Dodges.
Yes,
We have 7 yeas.
motion passes. We're on to the next communication. Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Communications from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. I motion to accept, placed on file, and approve the purchase of the chemical sodium bisphonates in the amount of $64,000 from JCI Jones Chemicals of Sarasota, Florida. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, fund wastewater account classification, 61 supplies and materials by roll call.
Now, Mr. Boucher is here, but before we turn to him, I wanted to mention that Ms. Parkinson is also on the call or in the meeting. And we have developed this procedure where prior to your coming to the city, which was very recent, that we don't really refer a lot of questions to the purchasing manager, but if there are, that doesn't mean if you have things you'd like to add or you think that you have information on any of these contracts that you should please speak up. Okay?
Okay.
All right. But Mr. Boucher from the wastewater treatment plant is here. Could you please fill us in on this contract?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. This is for the purchase of sodium bisulfite. It's a chemical used at the wastewater plant on a daily basis. It's used to dechlorinate our treated effluent before it enters the river. We participate in a chemical consortium through a bid process to get the lowest price available. JCI was the low bidder, and they came in 1.4% lower than last year. So we'd like to go with JCI. They're a well-known company in the field.
Discussion, questions? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk, yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodges.
Yes, the
We
motion
have 7
passes.
yeas.
We now will go to the next communication. Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Okay. Communications from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, the purchase of sign for Holman Stadium. I motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of a GS6-60-X150-1585-R Galaxy Message Center from Scoreboard Enterprises of Manfield, Mass. in the amount of $39,738. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund Grant Activity Gopher Grant by roll call.
And I believe we have Mr. Caggiano, Park Rec here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, everyone. What this purchase will do is replace the antiquated sign that is on Amherst Street at the entrance to the park. Right now, we have a black letter put up the letter every time you want to change the message on the sign. What this will do is allow us to have a scrolling sign that'll just continuously scroll. That'll handle multiple messages. It'll also free up the portable unit that's right under the sign where we're currently running information about COVID and testing. Community services can use it, the health department, DPW. We can use it for storm emergencies and all of our programs. The firm that's doing the work is the same ones that have boards at Holman and Stellos. They've given us excellent service. Very good company.
Any, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify that this is not, there's no cost to the city with this. This is going to be purchased out of Gopher funds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alderman Laws.
I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Caggiano. I know he's wanted this sign for a while, and I'm glad that it's finally happening. I think it's gonna do a lot to enhance the aesthetic of Holman Stadium.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderwoman Lou.
Just wondering, is there actually a fund with a number that's Gopher, or are we tracking these? So the reason I ask is in the past, I've seen a notation on this expenditure record of COVID-19. And how are we doing this now?
Well, the Gopher funds, we will get reimbursed. We are advancing the funds. You know, we have a lot of cash on hand, so we are advancing the funds, but we will be reimbursed out of the Gopher funds. And very careful track is being kept of all of the Gopher-related purchases by our finance team, Mr. Griffin. Ms. Kleiner has a spreadsheet of everything that's scheduled to be purchased via Gopher, and we meet periodically to go over the list. For example, today, and the total Gopher reimbursement that we are eligible for is about slightly short, but $2.1 million. We have scheduled all of that to be used for various COVID-related needs, and this being one of them.
So by that, do you mean that we have a receivable account that these are, some type of an account that these are being?
Well, Mr. Griffin, I don't know how what exactly the accounting procedure is. I know we're advancing the funds and will be reimbursed.
For Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
The good news here is that the Board of Aldermen several months ago approved a Gopher Fund grant. So it's set grant up, so all of the expenses that we reviewed with you today are being charged to the grant. So no eligible expense is being charged to any operating accounts. Rather, it's going into the grant, so it's well positioned for reimbursement by the state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All right, could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clay,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodges. We have seven.
Yes. Motion passes.
Somebody's
Next
TV.
communication, again, Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Okay. Another communications from Kelly Parkinson, purchasing matter. I motion to accept, placed on file, and approve change order number 1 to the pavement management service contract with Stantec Counseling Services, Inc. of Burlington, Mass. in an amount not to exceed $30,100. Funding will be through the department 160 Administrative Engineering Fund Bond Activity Paving by roll call.
All right, I think we have Mr. Hudson here, I believe, who is city engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is support services for our paving program. It's an engineering company that annually surveys 1/3 of our city street network of over 300 miles. So each year they're assessing 100 miles, and they review the roads. They give roads a score, a PCI score, or a pavement condition index of 0 to 100. And that helps us choose the appropriate treatment measure for the roads that we're doing work on. And it helps us prioritize where we're working, and also over time, see the benefit of the work we're doing. So for those reasons, we ask for your support.
Anyone? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clay,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodges.
Yes. Motion passes. We have another communication, Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Communications from Kelly Parkinson, purchasing manager. I motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order. Change order number 1 to the 2020 sidewalk program contract with RWC Enterprises of Nashua, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $40,000, funded through the Southeast Quadrant Funds, $31,000, and Capital, $9,000. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering Funds, Trust and Capital, account category 54 Property Services and Activity, sidewalks by roll call.
And I believe this would be Mr. Hudson again.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this year we engaged on a sidewalk reconstruction project on East Hollis Street. It's about 900 feet of concrete sidewalk we're replacing. It was in terrible shape and needed to be done. As we got into the work, we identified some additional work that needed to be done. That includes some additional ADA ramps. We're trying to make better matches to some of the properties by widening the sidewalk in areas, installing some back curb in other areas. And then there was a section of sidewalk that had been damaged over the years due to trucks turning on a corner. And that section we're trying to thicken up so it can better handle that abuse it's getting. So, so these changes were unforeseen at the time of the original contract. So that's why we bring this change order and respectfully request your approval.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you, and thank you for giving the necessary attention to our sidewalk. My question is, let's see if I can phrase this in a good way. Is it kind of like a house where it's okay unless you start messing with things and then you have to come up to code? I was looking at the ADA thing and thinking that, you know, obviously it's not mandated, but it must be when you start doing work.
So the ADA is mandated. We should be, and we are engaged in a process of trying to bring all our facilities up to ADA compliance. We have a lot of facilities, so that's quite a challenge. But obviously, when you're doing work, we're trying to complete that work in the appropriate way and address the issues that we can. So in this case, we were doing improvements along the sidewalk, but just across an intersection, there was another ramp, and that wasn't compliant. So to make the proper connections, we're trying to add this work and do those things. So, so yeah, we do have a long way to go with ADA still, but we are working on it, and this change order will help us be more compliant.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you, Mayor Dontress. I just want to let the group know that someone who may not be muted has a TV in the background that's making it hard to hear. Has a TV in the background.
Someone has a TV in the background and they can hear it?
Yes, well, but what I'd like to say about this is, I'm just new to this committee, and I guess I just have a hard time understanding what might not have been seen before, because this was 2 months ago that can you help me understand just what the parties, the contractors and you folks who hired them missed in the amount of, I don't know, 20% of the I'm just, trying to understand how this comes about in two months.
Sure. So I can address that. It's a combination of things. One is that we put this bid together in the winter time. So it wasn't the ideal time to go out and look at things. Second is, as we started construction, we walked the project and looked at it more closely and realized that, some of the things we had planned needed to be improved. So, hindsight's 2020. I wish we would have foreseen these ahead of time. I believe, this particular engineer that put this project together is learning quite a bit from this project, and the next project will do better and should have fewer of these. But it's the natural process. You find some things you didn't expect, and then there's always some things that maybe you could have foreseen but just didn't for whatever reason.
Thank you. No specifics, just thank you.
Anyone else? All right, could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk is yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Donches.
Yes.
Okay,
All right, another communication, Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Another communications from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. I motion to accept, placed on file, and approve amendment number 2 to the contract with Waldron Engineering of Exeter, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $19,568.90 for construction administration services for the Energy Recovery Upgrade Project. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Wastewater Activity Energy Recovery Upgrades by roll call.
Now, I think Mr. Boucher.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you a little description of the energy recovery upgrades going on at the wastewater facility. It consists of the installation of 2 brand new generators that have the capability of burning both biofuel and natural gas. It's an upgrade to the facility because our previous generator only burned biogas and failed. But it's a very complex project. These generators will power our digester complex at the wastewater facility. This is the part of the facility that treats the solids before they leave for beneficial reuse. It powers generators, lighting, pumps, hot water pumps, and heat exchangers. So it's a lot of power this facility needs. Waldron Engineering is the engineering firm that designed the upgrades. They also did the construction oversight. We'd like them to continue with the construction oversight. Unfortunately, this project has gone longer than we had intended because of its complexity. There's been some modifications along the way because we're trying to fit everything into an existing building versus a new building. We've had issues with the existing utilities. We didn't know they were there. Some were on the ground, some were under the concrete. So things had to be modified throughout the way, but we've exhausted Waldron's. They had to draw up new plans every time. We're nearing the end. We're at the punch list phase. We do have some oversight. We did some testing today throughout this week. But Eversource has required extra items before we connect to the grid. We have the capability, if we generate more power than we need, we can send it back to the grid for cost savings. Also, the state has required some extra testings for the air permit. So we'd like to continue using Waldron, who has been working well with us, to oversee us through to the end of the project, which we're hoping will be done within a month and a half. I'll answer any questions if you have it.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bouchard, you said that this one will burn biofuel and another fuel. I didn't quite hear that. By adding the other fuel source rather than using a biofuel, there's a cost savings with that also, or just gives us an alternate?
No, what happens is it's mainly going to burn our biofuel, which is the methane gas generated by the sludge. Around 80% of that. Unfortunately, it's an unstable pressure, so we need to blend it with a natural gas, which is a stable pressure coming from the grid to make sure we maintain an even pressure through the system. So it'll be natural gas that we're burning.
Just a quick follow-up, Mr. Mayor.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. Ms. Bouchard, so to this point that we've only been doing biofuel, so we've had that, has it been volatile up to this point, or?
No, that the generator that was using the biofuel died back in 2017 prior to me starting. We've been powering this facility on the grid, just using electric power, some biofuel for our our boilers, but there's been no generator generating power for this. So we've just been burning some biofuel through our boilers. So it hasn't been that cost effective.
Just a quick follow-up comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that we'll have some cost savings, not use quite as much electricity, be able to generate some energy and have some cost savings. So I appreciate the efforts on your part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
I know, sorry.
You are muted.
I know. Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Donches.
Yes. All right, next item is again a communication from Kelly Parkinson. Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, place on file, and approve the Motorola service agreement and the system upgrade agreement SUA 2 in the amount of $240,152.26. Funding will be through FY21 citywide communications budget. Communications equipment maintenance account number 57.1.620 54435 by roll call.
Mr. Mansfield is here. He's the communications expert. Could you please explain this item, Mr. Mansfield?
Yes, so annually we have a maintenance agreement with Motorola Incorporated. The largest piece of this is something that we do annually. It's called a System Upgrade Agreement 2, meaning that our radio system gets upgraded every 2 years to the latest and greatest technology that's out there. What ends up happening when they do these upgrades is they replace any hardware that's no longer compatible with the new software that's coming in. They also replace software. They upgrade security features. And the biggest thing is of this whole program is to make sure that we maintain our radio communication system so we don't have to go and do what they call a forklift upgrade by replacing everything after a 5-year period. So this basically keeps our system running for many more years to come. The last year, you paid the city paid the first portion of the upgrade agreement. This would be the second part of that upgrade agreement, and the upgrade is scheduled to occur in late April 2021, where the system will be upgraded at that point. The other items on the in this particular regular maintenance contracts are security upgrade services on a weekly basis. I receive a security upgrade for all of our Windows-based servers as well as clients, and then we have to go through and make sure that we basically upgrade all those units on a weekly basis. Astro technical support, that's call-in support for me to help troubleshoot issues that we are having with the system. Preventive maintenance, Motorola comes out and they have a system technologist come out. They go out to all the radio sites that we have. They tune everything and align all of the radio stations and make sure that the equipment is working properly at those sites. And I think that's the last portion of that. Yes, sorry. I couldn't hear you, Mr. Mayor.
You're muted, Mayor.
Oh, sorry. These are the emergency radios for police and fire, if that's not clear. Any questions or comments? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clay,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Donches.
Yes. We'll now go to the next communication.
Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. I motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 7 to the Energy Recovery Upgrade Contract with Methuen Construction Company of Plastow, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $39,315 for various mechanical instrumentations and electrical modifications to the Energy Recovery Room. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Activity, Energy Recovery Upgrade Project by roll call.
Mr. Boucher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the same project I just mentioned earlier, the Energy Recovery Project. Due to several changes and additional testings and that needed, there's been several proposed change orders. So this change order 7 is a combination of several smaller change orders. So I'll just kind of go through the change orders that make up the total cost of this change order 7. We had a fuel blending skid. Unfortunately, it couldn't be located where we initially wanted it on the plans due to underground utilities that couldn't be moved. And with that move of the blending skid, we had to have additional piping installed. There was an additional installation of an oil mister. This was required on the generators that were purchased. It was an additional protective feature. We want the generators to last as long as possible. So this was recommended by the generator company, Milton Cat. We had piping relocation for the generators. One of the generators had to be relocated, again, due to some unforeseen electrical conduits under the concrete floor. So with that, we had in-house fabrication of piping. There was extra wiring to a switch gear that had to be done. This was required by Eversource before we can connect to the grid. Fuel train fabrication. This was also required by the generator company just because of the relocation of it. We needed to extend out some of the fuel train. There's another one, a coring for our generator stacks. We wanted to use the existing core through the ceiling. Unfortunately, it was a bad core from the existing generator at the wrong angle, so we had to do an additional core. We had electrical costs due to damaged wires. Unfortunately, it wasn't caused by the contractor. It was damage before the construction had begun, but they're willing to fix it at a reasonable cost. We had a large amount here is upgrades to the SCADA system interface. Unfortunately, this was going to be done by a staff member who left us last April. So we have to hire out a company to do this interface. The company that the contractor was using is one we're familiar with. They've done other work for us. This came at a reasonable cost. So we're going to have them do it. And then reconnection of the gas pressure transmitter. Initially, this wasn't in the contract. It was a transmitter that hadn't been used, but after discussion with our engineer, it would be beneficial to reconnect it. We had it checked out. It's in good shape, and it can be connected to our new equipment. So we'd like to do that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. I know that was a little wordy, but
Well, that was fine. We got 3 different change orders. All right, I don't see any questions. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk is yes, Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Donches.
Yes. Motion passes. So we have another communication, this time again from purchasing manager, Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
A motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract for moving services for the renovation of the public health building in an amount not to exceed $39,547.50 to Sterling Corporation by roll call.
And I believe Ms. Kleiner is here to talk, to address this contract.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the committee. So as many of you may know, the risk department, purchasing department and city buildings has been working and assisting the Office of Economic Development with various parts of the move for the public health building. They are slotted to be moved towards the end of the month to the Landmark building. We went out for bid for this service. We received 5 bids back. Sterling was the low bidder. You will note that this is a not to exceed. We are still in negotiations with this vendor and expect that as we work through what furniture will actually be moved and what may no longer be relevant or in good condition and may need to be dealt with in other ways, that price may drop. That's why it's a not to exceed figure. This is important that we get public health moved. They cannot practice social distancing in their current location, and we need to get them into a location where they may. So that building is being renovated and retrofitted so that they may return, at least some of them, to work.
Questions, comments? Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you, Mayor Donches. Did you say the Landmark building or the Whiting building?
I said the Landmark.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the Whiting building they were going to. Okay.
That's the LLC.
Pardon me?
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead, Kim. I know.
No, you said it perfectly, and I think Director Cummings is looking too. But you said it perfectly. That's the LLC.
Yeah, it is the Landmark building, but it's now owned by Whiting LLC.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is that Alderman O'Brien? Do you have a question? No. Anyone else? Alderwoman Klee? Is that a question? When you guys put your hand up, to adjust your computer, I think you're raising your hand. All right, if there's no other questions, could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Klee.
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Laws.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
And Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes. We will now go to unfinished business, new business resolutions. We have R20-054, authorizing the City of Nashua to execute a lease with Whiting Building LLC. Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, place on file, and authorize the city to enter into a lease with Whiting Building LLC for the public health relocation plan in the amount of $48,300 by roll call.
Discussion? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Klee.
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yeah.
Clerk
Yes.
says yes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Laws.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
And Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes. New business ordinances, we have none. The record of expenditures. Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
I motion that the Finance Committee has compiled with the city charter and ordinance pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from July 10th, 2020 to July 30th, 2020 by roll call.
Discussion? Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. I didn't have a chance to ask this question earlier before the meeting, but if I could just ask about an urban development grant or allocation that was made to Yummy Foods. I'm not, it's on page 36, and I'm just not familiar with that entity in this area. If
Mr. Griffin?
I'd have to look that up, Mr. Mayor. I'm not familiar with that.
And who is the entity to whom the check is made out?
Yummy Foods.
So that would be a
Alderman-
carry scheme.
Excuse me, Mr. Cummings.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Mayor and CFO Griffin, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to suggest that what is being discussed right now is actually a grant that came through CDBG with part of our COVID-19 Impact Fund, where that was a local eatery, I want to say off the top of my head, in the mall. But I could go back and look at the paperwork for the specifics and forward it along if that's of interest.
So you think this was advanced pursuant to the COVID-19 Impact Fund?
And I'll double check that and
So
submit.
if that's not correct, we will come back with a different answer, but I suspect it is.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Darchis.
Yes. General discussion. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? I don't see anything. Okay, remarks by, excuse me, public comment. Is there anyone on the meeting who wishes to address the committee? Remarks by Alderman. Are there any remarks? Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I just wanted to shout out to a concurrent meeting that's going on. I wanted to thank the reopening task force with the school board and all the work that they did. They put out a 48-page document last Friday talking about what their recommendations were. And I know that they're taking public comment and doing the hard work of making that decision tonight. So best of luck to everyone and thanks for the hard work there.
Any other remarks? Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
I just want to say that I'm happy that we are beginning to go forward with the health department and the renovations and all the things that it's been a long time coming, way overdue. I'm just excited that we're doing something now. We're starting it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all your support on that. Anyone else? All right, Alderwoman Clee.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Could the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou,
Yes.
clerk says yes. Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mayor Darchis.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, and the meeting is adjourned
As of what, 7:59.
at 7:59.